Let's talk about something that a lot of us have probably felt, but maybe don't really talk about. And that's the strange, almost surprising sense of peace that washes over you right after you decide to cut someone out of your life.
Oh, we have all been there. You know that exact moment. Your phone buzzes, you see their name pop up, and instead of that usual jolt of anxiety or that heavy feeling of obligation, you just don't. You decide not to reply. And you know what? The world keeps spinning. In fact, it actually gets a little quieter, a little more peaceful.
And that's the big question, isn't it? We live in a world that is screaming about a loneliness epidemic, so why does this act of disconnecting, of choosing distance, feel so much like relief? Why does it feel less like being alone and more like finally coming home to yourself?
Okay, let's just tackle that contradiction right from the start. You know, the official story is that we should all be connecting more, but your own experience is telling you something completely different.
I mean, look at the data. The US Surgeon General says we're dealing with this huge crisis of isolation, and yet here you are actively choosing distance, and instead of feeling like some sad statistic, you found calm. This isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a critical clue we need to pay attention to.
So, let's shift gears. We've talked about the what, this feeling of peace. Now let's get into the why. What is actually going on inside your body, inside your nervous system when you make that call? Well, it turns out this isn't just some emotional decision. It's biology. It's a deep primal function.
And a lot of this is explained by something called polyvagal theory. The simple version is this. Think of your nervous system as having different gears. When you were just constantly being drained by certain people, your brain doesn't really wait for you to make a conscious choice. It just flips a switch, a shutdown switch, to conserve energy. It's called the dorsal vagal response.
And this really breaks it down perfectly. It starts with social engagement, right? You're trying, you're giving, you're listening. But when that interaction just leads to chronic energy depletion, your system goes into a protective shutdown. It's a retreat, and it's designed to protect your most precious resource, your own energy. Your system isn't broken. It is literally doing its job.
But why? Where did your nervous system learn that hitting the off switch was the best way to stay safe? Well, for a lot of us, that programming, that blueprint, it was written a long, long time ago.
Just let that sink in for a second. As a kid, maybe you had to become a little expert at scanning for moods, for tension, knowing that the entire feeling of your home could flip in an instant. That wasn't a phase. That was a survival skill.
You know, there's actually a clinical term for this. Psychologist Murray Bowen called it emotional cutoff. It's what happens when a child learns that getting close to someone comes with a price, that affection can be chaotic or unreliable. So what do? You adapt. You learn deep down that distance equals safety. And that pattern, it just becomes the default setting for your adult relationships.
Okay, this part is absolutely critical because there is a world of difference between healthy self-protection and self-sabotaging isolation. It really comes down to this. Are you building boundaries or are you building walls?
And the science on this couldn't be clearer. The CDC's data shows that long-term, true social isolation has very real, very serious physical health risks. So nobody's saying you should live like a hermit. This is all about understanding the quality of your connections, not the quantity. And this slide just lays it out so well. Walls are built from fear. They're indiscriminate. They keep everyone out. But boundaries? Boundaries are smart. They're selective. They're built from self-awareness and from data. And that data is how certain people make you feel. So if cutting someone off brought you a sense of relief, that wasn't a wall you just built. That was a boundary finally doing its job.
So let's reframe this entire thing. That sensitivity that maybe you've been told is a weakness your whole life, it's not. It's actually a highly refined skill. You're not too sensitive. You are an expert-level pattern recognition machine. This is so important to get. All those years you spent reading the room, sensing those tiny shifts in tone, in energy, they weren't for nothing. You basically developed a sophisticated early warning system that processes social cues most people completely miss.
And you see these patterns with crystal clarity, don't you? You spot the taker, the person whose kindness always has strings attached, the partner who pulls you in close just to push you away. You've seen this movie 100 times, and you already know how it's going to end.
And hey, this isn't just some feel-good idea. This is backed by science. A very recent study in Nature Neuroscience confirmed it. Early life stress can literally make your brain's threat detection circuits stronger. Your brain isn't paranoid or broken. It's a highly specialized expert system that's been fine-tuned by your own life experiences.
So, let's start using the right words for your experience. Society likes to throw around labels for people who choose to be alone, right? Isolated, withdrawn, antisocial. But all of those words imply that something is wrong, that something is missing, and they're just wrong. The difference here is huge. Loneliness is something that happens to you. It's involuntary. It's that painful feeling that connection is missing. But solitude? Solitude is a conscious choice. It's the peaceful presence of your own company. You're not staring at your phone, wishing someone would call. You're enjoying the quiet, finally able to hear yourself think. That feeling isn't rejection. It's relief.
And this is the ultimate way to think about it. People on the outside might think you're running away from them, but you know the truth. You are running toward peace. You are running toward clarity. You're actively choosing to build a life that feels calm instead of chaotic. That's not isolation. That's building a sanctuary for yourself.
And if you need one last piece of evidence, just look at one of the longest-running studies on human happiness ever done. For 75 years, Harvard tracked people's lives, and the #1 conclusion was unmistakable. A happy life is built on good relationships. It was never, ever about how many friends you have on social media. It was about the quality of those connections. A small, supportive circle is worth more than a huge, draining one. Every time. So we'll end with this thought. Your peace is a valuable resource. Your energy is not unlimited. So the real question isn't, should I be letting people into my life? The question is, who has actually earned the right to be there? Who truly deserves access to that quiet sanctuary you've worked so hard to build? And that is a question that only you can answer.